Good day, children. Today we are discussing the fifth lesson in Hornbill, an important chapter named The Ailing Planet, the Green Movement's Role by Nani Palkhiwala. Nani Palkhiwala was a liberal economist and jurist and was also India's ambassador to United States from 1977 to 1979. He has authored several books. The following is an article by him published in the Indian Express dated 24th November 1994. The environmental issues he discusses continue to have relevance even today. Moving on to the chapter. One cannot recall any movement in world history which has gripped the imagination of the entire human race so completely and so rapidly as the Green Movement, which started nearly 25 years ago. In 1972, the world's first nationwide Green Party was founded in New Zealand. Since then, the movement has not looked back. So, according to the author, one of the landmark movements in world history was the initiation of the Green Movement. The world's first Green Party was launched in New Zealand in 1972, and since then, there has been no turning back for the party. We have shifted, one hopes, irrevocably from the mechanistic view to a holistic and ecological view of the world. It is a shift in human perceptions as revolutionary as that introduced by Copernicus, who taught mankind in the 16th century that the Earth and the other planets revolved round the sun. For the first time in human history, there is a growing worldwide consciousness that the Earth itself is a living organism, an enormous being of which we are parts. It has its own metabolic needs and vital processes which need to be respected and preserved. The Earth's vital signs reveal a patient in declining health. We have begun to realize our ethical obligations to be good stewards of the planet and responsible trustees of the legacy to future generations. So today, we have shifted our view of Earth from that of a machine to a view that takes into account all aspects, including those related to environment and ecology of the world. This shift in human awareness was as revolutionary as the finding of Copernicus, who stated in the 16th century that the Earth and the other planets revolved round the sun. For the first time, there is a growing worldwide realization that the Earth itself is a living organism. It has its own metabolic needs and fundamental processes which need to be respected and preserved. The Earth, like a patient, has begun to show symptoms of failing health. We have started realizing our responsibilities to the planet. We are the caretakers of this inheritance of the Earth for our future generation. The concept of sustainable development was popularized in 1987 by the World Commission on Environment and Development. In its report, it defined the idea as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. That is, without stripping the natural world of resources future generations would need. So in the year 1987, the World Commission on Environment and Development popularized the concept of using natural resources while maintaining an ecological balance without causing harm to the environment. The Commission defined the idea as growth that fulfills the need of the present without harming the facility of future generations to meet their needs. This implied that we ought to progress without depleting the natural resources that the future generations would need. In the zoo at Lusaka, Zambia, there is a cage where the notice reads, "The world's most dangerous animal." Inside the cage, there is no animal but a mirror where you see yourself. Thanks to the efforts of a number of agencies in different countries, a new awareness has now dawned upon the most dangerous animal in the world. He has realized the wisdom of shifting from a system based on domination to one based on partnership. Scientists have catalogued about 1.4 million living species with which mankind shares the earth. Estimates vary widely as regards the still uncatalogued living species. Biologists reckon that about 3 to 100 million other living species still languish unnamed in ignominious darkness. So, the writer narrates that in the zoo at Lusaka, Zambia, there is a cage with a notice, "The world's most dangerous animal." Inside the cage is a mirror where visitors can see themselves. Various organizations in different countries helped in creating in man the awareness that he is the most dangerous species who is exploiting now the planet mindlessly. He has realized the wisdom of shifting from a system based on domination to one based on partnership with the other species. There are about 1.4 million living species that have been listed on the earth. Biologists think that there are about 3 to 100 million other living species that are still unidentified and uncatalogued. That means they live without an identity. That is why he has used the expression ignominious darkness. One of the early international commissions which dealt inter alia with the question of ecology and environment was the Brand Commission, which had a distinguished Indian as one of its members, Mr. L.K. Jha. The first Brand report raised the question, are we to leave our successors a scorched planet of advancing deserts, impoverished landscapes, and ailing environment? Mr. Lester R. Brown, in his thoughtful book, The Global Economic Prospect, points out that the Earth's principal biological systems are four: fisheries, forests, grasslands, and croplands, and they form the foundation of the global economic system. In addition to supplying our food, these four systems provide virtually all the raw materials for industry except minerals and petroleum-derived synthetics. In large areas of the world, human claims on these systems are reaching an unsustainable level, a point where their productivity is being impaired. When this happens, fisheries collapse, forests disappear, grasslands are converted into barren wastelands, and croplands deteriorate. In a protein-conscious and protein-hungry world, overfishing is common every day. In poor countries, local forests are being decimated in order to procure firewood for cooking. In some places, firewood has become so expensive that what goes under the pot now costs more than what goes inside it. Since the tropical forest is, in the words of Dr. Myers, the powerhouse of evolution, several species of life face extinction as a result of its destruction. So, Mr. L.K. Jha in the Brand Commission report raised the question whether we wanted to leave a scorched planet having a sick environment for the future generations. Mr. Lester R. Brown, in his book, The Global Economic Prospect, pointed out that the Earth's main biological systems are fisheries, forests, grasslands, and croplands. These form the basis of the global economic system. They supply our food and provide almost all the raw materials for industry except minerals and petroleum-derived synthetics. In large areas of the world, these systems are reaching a level where their efficiency is being damaged. Overfishing is common every day and forests are being destroyed for firewood, for cooking. As a result, firewood has become so expensive in some places that it is more expensive than the food that is being cooked inside. According to Dr. Myers, the tropical forests that are the powerhouse of evolution, as they house innumerable species, are facing extinction. It has been well said that forests precede mankind, deserts follow. The world's ancient patrimony of tropical forests is now eroding at the rate of 40 to 50 million acres a year, and the growing use of dung for burning deprives the soil of an important natural fertilizer. The World Bank estimates that a five-fold increase in the rate of forest planting is needed to cope with the expected fuel wood demand in the year 2000. So it has been rightly said that forests existed before mankind and mankind will leave behind deserts. Man destroys forest land, turning it into deserts. The world's tropical forests are now being destroyed at the rate of 40 to 50 million acres a year. As a result, people use dung for burning, and this takes away from the soil an important natural fertilizer. According to the World Bank, we need to increase the rate of forest planting 5 times more to cope with the expected fuel wood demand in the year 2000. Remember, this article was written in 1994 and now we are in 2020. James Speth, the president of the World Resources Institute, said the other day, "We were saying that we are losing forests at an acre a second, but it is much closer to an acre and a half to a second." Article 48A of the Constitution of India provides that the state shall endeavour to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country. But what causes endless anguish is the fact that laws are never respected nor enforced in India. For instance, the Constitution says that casteism, untouchability and bonded labour shall be abolished, but they flourish shamelessly even after 44 years of the operation of the Constitution. A recent report of our Parliament's Estimates Committee has highlighted the near catastrophic depletion of India's forests over the last 4 decades. India, according to reliable data, is losing its forests at the rate of 3.7 million acres a year. Large areas officially designated as forest land are already virtually treeless. The actual loss of forests is estimated to be about 8 times the rate indicated by government statistics. So, Nani Palkiwala continues. James Speth, the president of the World Resources Institute, stated that we are losing an acre and a half of forest every second. He reminds us, Nani Palkiwala reminds us, Article 48A of the Constitution of India provides that the state shall try to protect and improve the environment and safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country. But unfortunately, laws, he feels, are never respected or enforced in India. Despite laws against casteism, untouchability and bonded labour, even after 44 years, in the article he says 44 years, but to update it, it is now 70 years. Of the functioning of the Constitution, these social evils still thrive in India. Recently, Parliament's Estimates Committee highlighted the disastrous exhaustion of India's forests over the last 4 decades, that is, now 7 decades. It stated that India is losing its forests at the rate of 3.7 million acres a year. The actual loss of forests is likely to be about 8 times more than this. So now what will the figure be in 2020? A 3-year study using satellites and aerial photography conducted by the United Nations warns that the environment has deteriorated so badly that it is critical in many of the 88 countries investigated. There can be no doubt that the growth of world population is one of the strongest factors distorting the future of human society. It took mankind more than 1 million years to reach the first billion. That was the world population around the year 1800. By the year 1900, a second billion was added, and the 20th century has added another 3.7 billion. The present world population is estimated at 5.7 billion. Every 4 days, the world population increases by 1 million. So, a 3-year study by the United Nations using satellites and aerial photography studied the environment in 88 countries. And it has been reported that the environment was critical in many of these countries. According to the writer, growing population is one of the strongest factors changing the future of human society. He gives the statistics to show the growth of population. In 1800, the population was merely 1 billion. Another billion was added to it by 1900. By the 20th century, the population increased by another 3.7 billion. The present world population is estimated at 5.7 billion. That was in 1994. Every 4 days, the world population increases by 1 million. So, again, next paragraph. Fertility falls as income rise, education spreads, and health improves. Thus, development is the best contraceptive. But development itself may not be possible if the present increase in numbers continue. The rich get richer and the poor beget children, which condemns them to remain poor. More children does not mean more workers, merely more people without work. It is not suggested that human beings be treated like cattle and compulsorily sterilized. But there is no alternative to voluntary family planning without introducing an element of coercion. The choice is really between control of population and perpetuation of poverty. The population of India is estimated to be 920 million today, more than the entire populations of Africa and South America put together. No one familiar with the conditions in India would doubt that the hope of people would die in their hungry hutments unless population control is given topmost priority. So, after telling about the population, he moves on to the impact caused by the population growth. As income rises, education spreads. The rate of population will decrease. This will improve health as well. Thus, development is the best way to check population. But development may not be possible if the increase in number continues, if the population continues to increase. The rich get richer and the poor are producing children, and which is the cause of their poverty. Having more children does not mean more people to work. On the other hand, it adds to more unemployed people. People should be encouraged to go for voluntary family planning. At present, the population of India was estimated, that is in 1994, the population of India was estimated to be 920 million, more than the entire population of Africa and South America put together. If this is not checked, the poor will die of starvation. For the first time in human history, we see a transcending concern, the survival not just of the people but of the planet. We have begun to take a holistic view of the very basis of our existence. The environmental problem does not necessarily signal our demise. It is our passport for the future. The emerging New World Vision has ushered in the era of responsibility. It is a holistic view, an ecological view, seeing the world as an integrated whole rather than a disassociated collection of parts. Industry has a most crucial role to play in this new era of responsibility. What a transformation would be effected if more businessmen shared the view of the chairman of DuPont, Mr. Edgar S. Woolard, who 5 years ago declared himself to be the company's chief environmental officer. He said, "Our continued existence as a leading manufacturer requires that we excel in environmental performance." Of all the statements made by Margaret Thatcher during the years of her prime ministership, none has passed so decisively into the current coin of English usage as the felicitous words, "No generation has a freehold on this earth. All we have is a life tenancy with a full repairing lease." In the words of Mr. Lester Brown, we have not inherited this earth from our forefathers. We have borrowed it from our children. So now the situation is alarming. It is not only about the survival of the people but of the planet itself. The environmental problem may not kill us, but it is our authorization for a safe and healthy future. This is the era of responsibility that we need to fulfill for our coming generations. We need to understand the natural balance of the world rather than a separate collection of parts. Industry has a very important role to play in this age. Chairman of DuPont, Mr. Edgar S. Woolard, calls himself the company's chief environmental officer and not the chief executive officer. He said that as leading manufacturers, it was required of them that they excel in environmental performance. The world would be a better place if all businessmen began to think like him. Margaret Thatcher, the former Prime Minister of UK, who was also called the Iron Lady, too expressed her concern, saying that no generation has a freehold on this earth. We should live a life like tenants who have a full repairing rental contract. According to Mr. Lester Brown, we have not inherited this earth from our predecessors, but we are using the property of our future generations. So that brings us to the end of the chapter. I'm sure this chapter has given all of us valuable inputs to change our attitude towards the environment. We all made the mistake of thinking that nature is an everlasting phenomenon, capable of providing us how much ever we need. That is not true. There is definitely a finite boundary. If we do not correct ourselves, we will be living in a wasteland, scorched by the sun, as depicted in the famous Hollywood movie, Mad Max Fury Road. Thank you so much.